Polite. If the call of food is so great, please go. Securing the dark side of technology. Before we can discuss the dark side, we should start by asking, why do we use technology at all? Technology is there to structure our actions and thereby transform uncertainty into risk. Risk is a heady mix of hazard and opportunity. We swap hopelessness for the optimism in a plan of action. In other words, we impose structure in order to gain a tenuous handle on uncertainty. Others at this conference will be telling you about the opportunities of technology. As for me, I'll stick to the dark side. Whenever I smell flowers, I think funeral. I will claim that the core of managing information systems is not about finding a competitive advantage. Rather, it is coping with the clouds of complexity that surround every technology. Different ages have different perceptions of uncertainty, thus different organizational, different technological structures, each delivering different risk assessments. We have recently entered one of those different ages where the very nature of uncertainty and hence of risk has changed. Many so-called risk managers have yet to understand this. It's worth noting that Enron ran a consultancy in the management of risk, so they haven't the slightest idea of what risk means. I claim that there can be no control over something so dynamically nonlinear as technology, and that to cope we will need new socio-technical structures, not the tired old pseudo-scientific ones. I was once at a commercial conference, managing uncertainty. One session consisted of myself and a statistician. He talked for an hour on distributions and expectations and formulae and curves. The business audience found it inspiring stuff. Within 5 minutes, the eyes began to glaze over. After 10 minutes, he was talking to an audience of one, me. I was on the stage. I had to listen to the nonsense. But then, what did I expect? A statistician is someone who wants to work with numbers, but doesn't have the personality to be an accountant. So then it was my turn, and I walked over to the podium, and I stood there. And I stood there. For a whole minute, I just stood there. I fidgeted. I shot frantic glances at the audience, terrified glances. At first there was silence, then a few murmurs, and then a growing rumble of concern. The chairman rose to help me, and he was halfway across the stage when I banged the podium and said, "Now that's uncertainty. It's got nothing to do with statistics. Gee, business is like life, is like poker. There's a lot of bluffing going on. Players who put their faith in the independent variables and the statistical distribution of the cards will lose their shirts. Uncertainty is full of emergent singularities that do not conform to a neat computational logic. Singularities mean that forecasting techniques are limited to stable conditions and to the short term. In the end, it's all down to luck. And like the IRA terrorist group said after the Brighton bombing, they had to be lucky all of the time we have to be lucky just once. Now that's an excellent example of singularity. No technological installation can deal with the phenomenon of complex systems that spontaneously emerge around the technology. I've learned to play this poker game of singularities like my cat Oscar. Now, Oscar is a very special cat because he can talk. Some friends came visiting recently, and when I told them that Oscar could talk, they bet me at 10 to 1 that he couldn't. So I called Oscar over. No. He didn't say a word. So my friends took my money and left. And I glared at Oscar and said, "There's no fish for you tonight." And in a very superior voice, because Oscar is a very superior cat, he said, "Call yourself a professor. Tomorrow night we'll get 100 to 1. So, it's a joke. So when Oscar is involved, there are no independent variables. That is why at the London School of Economics, we believe that managers must look far beyond statistics, beyond the functionality of digital technology, beyond the good intentions of designers, towards the observable, consequential risks when computers are integrated into business in particular and society in general. This, I submit, is the basis of securing technology. It's not merely fiddling with firewalls, cryptography, passwords, biometrics, profiling, CCTV and the like. What is the biggest threat we all face? 2 decades ago, I was predicting that unless we controlled the complexity in our computer systems, we would be heading for a meltdown. Not even in my wildest nightmares did I foresee the complexity in the mix of Microsoft software, the internet,